Hello, and welcome back to the Secular Homeschool Revolution. I am Ashley, your host. If you are new here and did not know, this podcast is for secular, progressive, BIPOC homeschoolers. We do allow allies in the space who are committed to doing the work. So, today's episode is called Wait, Do I Have to Teach Everything? And what homeschooling actually looks like. We're in this season, it's the summer where people are trying to figure out, do they put their kids back in school or do they homeschool, or they just finished their first year of homeschooling and they're researching for what it looks like in the fall. So I am here to help. But before we move forward, I did want to give a life update. I know I've kind of left it out the last few episodes. Let's see. So my podcast is doing great, you guys. So thank you for your support, love, comments, shares, shout outs. I greatly appreciate it. I've grown, like, with my subscriptions 550%. And if you've been with me from the beginning since January of 2024, you know I only had 10 listeners. So to grow 550% is insane. So again, thank you, because I know time is expensive. Y'all, I do have to share an incident that happened with my 4-year-old. And it might be TMI. For this, we are at the grocery store. I am checking out, buying my groceries. The checker is checking them. The bagger is bagging them. And my son, who is like fake laughing at a very obnoxious tone, like grabbing his belly like, oh. And I'm like, son, what is going on with you? Sex. It's a funny word. Can you, what? And the bagger stops. The checker stops. The person behind me is staring me down. And I shop at H-E-B. So if you're not from Texas, H-E-B is like the best grocery store ever. Like, I want to move out of Texas, and I will say I would miss H-E-B. Like, their store brand products taste amazing. Anyway, so shout out to H-E-B. They got voted, best grocery store during the pandemic, and how they handled everything. It's just so nice. But anyway, so it's really busy, and it just felt like the whole store, everyone who was checking out, just got quiet. And I know where he got it from, because me and the girls are doing like health over the summer. So we're going through that book, Sex is a Funny Word. If you're looking for a fun, safe way to explain sex, reproduction, please check out the book, Sex is a Funny Word. It is also a banned book, so shout out to banned books. And so when we were going over it, he wasn't in the room. Like, we were in my room, chilling on my bed, like reading and doing the activities in the book. So he was like transitioning from like his room to downstairs. And so I guess I just assumed he wasn't listening. And so once we got into the car, we had to talk, like, and I was trying to choose my words carefully, because I didn't want him to think it was a bad word and like grow up with that idea. So I was like, hey, sex is a beautiful word, but for right now, we don't need to shout it out in the stores, because it can mean different things to different people. And he was like, okay, so I can't say sex? No, son, like, we're going to put a pause on it right now. But it's not a bad thing. We're just not ready to talk about it at this moment. And I was caught off guard in the grocery store. So wish me luck. He's been on a roll, and he's definitely made my parenting journey a little spicy lately. The second thing, or the third, am I on the second or third thing, is that our homeschooling co-op for the culture is expanding to a micro school, and it is opening in about 2 weeks in August of 2025. So shout out to Jen. She has the creative eye. the space for it is so cute and it's so beautiful. Not everyone has like a design eye. It literally is a gorgeous space. We've ordered our curriculums, we've got our books, we're doing interviews for students. Kia's leading them. So yeah, it's an overall exciting moment right now in my life. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this little peek into my world. So when people find out you're homeschooling, the first thing they say right after, what about socialization, is, oh my God, I could never do that. I suck at math. I barely passed algebra. How do you even teach that? We went to the same school. I saw your grades. Well, dang, don't shame me. You honestly, you don't have to teach algebra or diagram sentences or dissect frogs unless you really want to, or that's a skill you happen to have. And bless if that's what you do. I don't know. I don't. Those are definitely some things I didn't teach or don't plan on teaching. So we're going to bust this myth wide open. You do not have to be a subject matter expert in every single thing your kids need to learn, especially through middle school and high school. This is a lie, and I think it's a very loud lie to keep you scared and to keep you obedient. And even like you're graduated through the K through 12 system, these are the myths that are out there. And yes, if you're scared of them, you are being obedient, right? So you're not building this, one room schoolhouse like it's 1854. I know the drama 1854, and you have a chalkboard and you're walking around with a ruler, and you might or might not be, Miss Honey from Matilda. But if you are channeling Miss Honey vibes, go off. Or what does my kid say? Ate. You ate. It's a whole thing. She has a YouTube channel of like her favorite characters. And so I was looking at the comments and everyone is putting ATE. And I was like, what does this mean? And she was like, ate, mom, like they ate. And I was like, ate what? And she was like, that means like slay. And I was like, oh, okay. So if you're channeling Miss Honey vibes, go off because you ate. Hopefully y'all didn't cringe. But the truth is, homeschooling today is very much a team sport. It's community driven, there's lots of resources, and it's collaborative as hell. So whether you have something local, you can access something virtual. So you have options, and you're not the gatekeeper of all of the knowledge. You're just the facilitator, the connector, the curator. And you have to think of yourself as the producer of your kids' learning experience, not the one parent band playing Broadway show that has to do every instrument and every dance. Like it's really not that serious. Let's talk options, like real options. I'm going to give you some tools and you can take what serves you. So you guys, if you've been here for a while, I love community. I love co-ops, especially ours. Co-ops are like academic potlucks. Like I'm going to bring public speaking and you bring biology, right? And then somebody else brings a novel study. Like, for instance, my kid is getting ready to take a dissection class. I have no interest in doing dissection with her, but I'm so thankful another mom is interested and comfortable leading that. And I think it's a trade-off. Like I plan to teach like a zombie apocalypse class that like focuses on problem solving and critical thinking skills this fall. So switch off. Find people you can switch off, even if it's not a formal co-op. Find some moms you can meet up at the park and just exchange teaching lessons, under the pavilion. You got it. And whether you're in a nature co-op or a culturally affirming or queer affirming, community, Community is out there and it's doing the work. So you don't have to do it alone. Like I said, these were in-person co-op options. I know people have online pods, online micro schools, online homeschooling co-ops. Or if you're in a national homeschooling Facebook group, people are finding community that way. They like their question or like their comments and they're like, hey, let's talk more. And then they end up on virtual chats. So there's real opportunities to build community. Another tool is outsourcing. Outsource, baby, and don't feel bad about it. So with outsourcing, that can look like with online classes and tutors. It's the same thing as you hiring a plumber to fix your sink. You don't have that skill, or maybe you don't have the time to fix it yourself. So call a plumber. It's the same thing. Call a writing tutor or an algebra coach, or, we've used OutSchool for short-term classes. My kids even done math tutoring with some high school and college students. And hello, we use YouTube for everything. I'm like, we got to use YouTube, but in a healthy educational way, not just doom scrolling. And my kids have actually learned, like if they're struggling with like a math concept, they do, like even my 8-year-old can advocate for herself and go type in whatever unit she's working on and watch a tutorial. And then I usually will come sit with her. But the fact that she's able to like do that before she comes and asks me is freaking cool. I have 3 kids. That's helpful. The other, I'll say, some other things that they use, for YouTube is like my kid's writing a book. So she's going and watching lectures from other young authors and finding literary agents and tagging publishers in her YouTube videos for her characters. So that's another good way to use YouTube. She's extremely determined. My 8-year-old wanted to learn how to braid hair. So she got her Barbie mannequin out and was watching a video and learned how to do a Dutch braid and a French something, a French braid. So she's killing it. We are using the internet to learn. The third tool that you can use is podcasts, documentaries, and rabbit holes. Rabbit holes are my favorite, but then it's when I look up, it's already 11 o'clock at night. Don't be like me. Don't go down the deep, dark abyss of rabbit holes of learning. So what I want you to understand is when you're looking at podcasts or documentaries, you are not sleeping on non-traditional learning, you're embracing it. So for example, we've done entire unit studies based on Brains On, or we've used a Nova documentary, or we've done just a random deep dive into Black inventors because it was inspired by a bedtime story. And my kid asked a couple years ago, who invented the traffic light? I was like, I don't know. Let's research it. And boom, we had pretty much a week-long project on Garrett Morgan. And we, they did, not me, made cardboard signals and mock traffic cams. And you know what? I didn't really teach a damn thing. I was facilitating, which was nice. But they had the question. They learned, were using the skills they learned to research it. They wanted to make a model which was inspired by their research. Well, look at that. If kids get curious, you give them the space to be curious. And there wasn't anything that I limited them from. Did I personally have an interest of building a cardboard traffic light? Absolutely not. But they did, and I did not hinder them or tell them that was dumb or a waste of energy. I supported it. The fourth tool is self-directed learning. That's pretty much like the example I had with the traffic light, but sometimes you just have to get out of the way, right? So my middle kid taught herself how to knit from a combination of TikToks and YouTube videos. And she's making granny squares to make a blanket. At co-op, she learned about crochet and she said it was fine, but she felt like the knitting needles were calling her. And I said, "You got it, baby. I will get you the yarn. I will get you the knitting needles, and you can make whatever you're making." But I And she's like, "Well, what if I get so good I could sell it?" Well, you know what? That's math. That's entrepreneurship. That's goal setting. That's life. I love every moment of it. So if your kid is also passionate about Greek mythology or social justice or even Pokemon, just lean in. You can use that fire to light the way of other skills like writing, researching, analyzing, presenting. Y'all, that's one thing. Like my kids, even with our co-op, our community, like they present quite a bit. So it's funny because last year they competed in like a citywide poetry contest, and our kids killed it from our community. They were just bold and they were fearless, and I was just so proud of them. But it's because there's a lot of opportunities to practice presenting and public speaking. And when you're in that space of self-directed learning, let them lead. And I guarantee you, they'll surprise you. And that's a little bit what happens when you give them the space to like de-school. A lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, they're going to sit around and watch TV." Well, if you let them, but like if you can say, "Get creative, find something to do without technology," it'll feel like a long day the first couple days, and then they start getting curious because they get tired of being bored. So give them options. So let's talk about core subjects. The reading, writing, and math, and science, and social studies or history, because that is where a lot of new homeschoolers panic. So it's like, "Okay, Ashley, I get that I can outsource Latin or throw on a documentary about volcanoes, but don't I have to personally teach reading and multiplication?" Again, nope. You're not trying to recreate a classroom. You are creating a learning ecosystem, one where subjects are integrated and flexible and rooted in your kids' actual needs and interests. So let me break that down. So reading is just not phonics workbooks and sight words. And I agree that early literacy might require more one-on-one time, but it doesn't have to be dry or rigid. So like I'm teaching my 4-year-old to read because he keeps picking up books asking me to read and trying to follow the words. I was like, okay, this isn't me pushing it on him. And some days he's like really going through the lessons. Other days he's like, "No want to." Okay, you don't want to. But we do play games. Like we figure out the phonics sound for the next couple of lessons, phonics hopscotch, phonics hide and seek, hit the phonics with the fly swatter. Some other things that we do is reading aloud. We do it daily. Yes, even when they could already read, we still do read alouds. I think it helps build vocabulary, comprehension, and connection. I know it does but I don't have the scientific links, but Google it. It's definitely there. Next, we use graphic novels. So if your kids think reading is boring overall, hand them New Kid by Jerry Craft or Frizzy by Clarabelle Ortega, and I bet you they'll inhale it. Some people are just on the fence about graphic novels. Is it considered reading? It's the same thing with audiobooks. Absolutely. So that leads me to my next point. Audiobooks plus physical books, that's dual input. That's going to create a brain boost. So like my kid listened to the first Percy Jackson book on Libby. Oh my gosh, guys, Libby. I'm so sad what's going on with Libby. And she followed when she is visually impaired, but she listened to it and she followed along with the print version. And that absolutely counts for reading. Y'all, so I joined the Libby Facebook group, and this is a little bit off topic. And so they were explaining how libraries are charged for audiobooks. So for instance, if, they have a Percy Jackson copy, they may pay $150 to $200 for 5 copies a year. And then they get, depending on the book and the publisher, they'll be charged a certain percentage every time it's checked out. And then I think some contracts are written that it can only be checked out a maximum amount of times, and then the library has to repurchase rights to use it. Well, and that's kind of why sometimes there's long wait lines, right, for books. Well, with this new administration cutting the library budget, Libby's have had across the country, or libraries have had to cut their budget for Libby, so they don't have as many books available, and the wait lines are ridiculous. Oh, if you're in Texas, you can join the Houston Public Library for, a free library card to put it on your Libby. So in the Libby app, you can switch between, your current library and a secondary library to see if the books are available. And I was searching for a book. And so for San Antonio Public Library, it was a 3-week wait time, but Houston is a much bigger city. And again, they give free library cards to everyone around the state if you request one. It had a 7-month wait for the same book. That was not the case. I've never seen a book on hold more than a month. So yeah, it's really happening. So if you can start collecting banned books and taking this seriously, that they really are trying to limit our access to knowledge, start hoarding. And another thing with reading, go with the interest-led reading. So if they're into dinosaurs, sports, manga, social justice, just let them pick, because the goal is for them to build a love of reading and not just decoding letters. Right? If it's a Sonic book and they're more interested in Sonic right now, choose the Sonic book over the Bob book. It's okay. I guarantee you they're going to just love that book and just be so excited that it's open and y'all are reading it together and working through the sounds. So choose the Sonic book. I know, like I said, I've talked about my kid a few years ago was heavy into Pokemon. So she didn't really read books. She did read the Pokemon character guides. And I will say she was reading 400 plus words per page. And guess what? That was building her reading stamina just as well as any reading comprehension packet that's offered to them in schools. And currently right now, libraries in public schools are getting defunded or limited funding. I know in my local school district where I'm at, the librarians have been reduced in size. So not every elementary school has their own librarian like they did 3 years ago. The librarians are actually having to rotate between schools. So, for instance, Miss J is at Martin Luther King campus. I don't know if that's a real school in our district, but on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then she transitions to Jack Miller Elementary, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then on Friday she may go up to the middle school. But before, there were actual librarians at every campus. So we need to pay attention to these changes. And if you are a hardcore homeschooler, please don't let that narrow your vision on that there are kids who are currently being, educated in a public school system that, especially if they come from marginalized communities, are literally under attack right now. Even taking away their funding for their school lunches, they are literally under attack, and we can advocate for them just like we advocate for our own kids. So writing is another one that we can get intimidated about teaching. I will say don't kill the joy with overcorrection, because writing does not have to look like a perfect 5-paragraph essay every Friday. Because I don't think you should start there. Start with the ideas, with the storytelling, with the communication. And, we've done writing in several different ways. So we've done journals, gratitude journals, complaint journals. You know what? I had to like take deep breaths before the complaint journals. We've even done, topic journals. So like, weird dreams did you have? Or what superpower do you wish you had? Or who would you trade lives with? Whatever gets the pen moving, that's what we're using journals for. Another thing is like writing fan fiction and doing creative writing. So I know my daughter did write, because we did mention Pokemon earlier. She did write a dramatic breakup letter from Pikachu to Ash that he wanted to find a new owner. I thought it was funny. I thought it was gold. And you know what? She was writing. So another thing you can do is work on Google Docs. Let go of the must handwrite everything rule. If handwriting is a struggle, we just want thoughts to flow. So for instance, again, my oldest, she is visually impaired, and, writing can be a struggle for her sometimes, especially if she doesn't have the correct paper or the correct angle to write, like on a slant board. So she would type, and she's gotten really good at typing. And sometimes if she doesn't want to type, she does the voice to text to do whatever she's doing on Google Docs. Another thing was interesting, like my middle kid, she doesn't have a cell phone. So she was asking friends if they could chat on the Google Docs. So guess what? They were writing. And I just asked her, I was like, hey, put some periods there every now and then so they know it's a sentence. But that's another way that they're practicing writing. Another thing is that they could do a writer's workshop. I had just seen a picture come up in my Facebook memories. Last summer, my neighbor's nieces were in town, so we did a community, or what did they name it? Oh, Not the Basic Writers Club. And so I assisted, but my husband taught like a writing class to the kids, and he gave them fun writing prompts, and they really got into it. And I stepped back, and I was just their biggest cheerleader because, again, they were interested. He was able to lead, and that didn't depend on me. And when it comes to like grammar and mechanics, there is time. So don't sweat the run-on sentences at 9, because that's what editing is for. And then you can go through and explain like where you put a comma, why you put a comma. My gosh, math. Math seems to scare adults the most. And math trauma is real. A lot of us were taught in rigid test-based systems that did reward memorization over understanding. But that's the gift of homeschooling, because we can do it differently. So in my house, how we approach math, my youngest uses Beast Academy, and it is a story-based, math software that offers challenges for kids to think and not just calculate. It's what we call like conceptual math. I think it is beautifully illustrated, the comic books that go with the online learning. And I learned from it too. It definitely gets my brain jogged because it's a non-traditional way to learn math. And when I've taken her off Beast Academy, like right now, she's asking to do CTC math. So she's been dabbling with it. She's fine. Like she's right on point, even though she didn't have like a traditional math curriculum for the last few years. Let's see. So my middle kid, she does use CTC math, and then we sometimes use IXL for practice, but it's not a punishment. It literally is just a quick 10 to 15 minutes a day so that we can give like real life applications layered on. And also I just want her to be able to have and know the skill. Me and my husband do talk about budgeting with our kids. So, what that looks like, especially at the grocery store. When if you take all your kids to the grocery store, hats off to you. You are bold. My 3 kids, oh my gosh. They need a little snacky snack from every aisle. They argue about what cereal to get, so they think they can get 3 cereals. I'm like, that ain't in my budget. So it's just but anyway, so you could talk about math. That's numbers. That's more real life practice. And for like tougher topics, again, you can do Khan Academy videos. You can look for local tutors. Like I said, my kids have done like a math tutoring program that was virtual, and it was with like seniors in high school who were needing like community service credits, and they were really good, or math majors from the local university, and it was free. My kid just had to log in on like a Friday or a Thursday night and have the problems or content they were struggling with, and the tutors were there to support and offer them. And I do know sometimes tutoring can be expensive, so look for options. Or see if you have a friend or a friend has a partner that's good at math so that you can lean on it. It's all about using your community resources. And like when my kids say, "Why do I need to learn this?" We don't say because it's on the test. We say, let's figure it out because you might actually have to use this in the real life. And then we can role play, running a business or planning a vacation or calculating how much paint we need to cover. Like these are real math, real reasons to use it. And I think the key to all of this is shifting from this teacher mindset to facilitator mindset, because you don't have to have all the answers. You just need to build an environment where curiosity grows and you have access to resources and you have community to do the heavy lifting. And don't forget, public schools don't work magic either. There are kids in 8th grade reading at a 4th grade level. There are people graduating from high school who are reading at a 2nd and 3rd grade level, and a much higher percentage than I'm comfortable with, and I'm sure that you're comfortable with. I know here in Texas, they're graduating at like a 6th grade reading level now. Like that's the average. That's not like a select few. And these kids are sitting in classrooms 5 days a week and sometimes going to summer school and Saturday school. And that's not to shame them, but that's just to say, don't compare yourself to the traditional system. And if you feel like your kid isn't where they should be, I promise you they're still ahead because they have you and the flexibility to learn in a way that actually honors them. So you're not behind. You're just doing it differently. Community knowledge is real, it is revolutionary, and I do want to say this very loud for the people in the back. You are not homeschooling alone unless you choose to, and even then you are standing on the shoulders of your community, whether you realize it or not. And community does not have to be 10, 20, 30 people. It could be one other person. It could be 2 people. That is community. And we need to reframe what quote unquote qualified looks like. Because the truth is, the most valuable learning doesn't always come from a certified teacher in a classroom. It comes from a lived experience. It comes from culture. It comes from people who've walked the path and are willing to share the map. And we have to think bigger than curriculum. We are more than curriculum. I want you to look around your just life, your circle, and look at your family, your neighborhood, your group chat, your co-op, your barbershop, your kitchen table, your aunties. Like all of these people have untapped knowledge that I'm sure they would love to share. Like having, people in your community who can break down systemic oppression like it's like a bedtime story. Or you've got like tias who know herbal medicine and can teach you what different herbs do or teach you about plants. And that hands-on experience would be better than a botany textbook. You also have uncles who can fix like a busted lawnmower, and they can explain without realizing or using usually technical terms, but they can explain to you how, combustion works and why it matters. Or you have a neighbor who grew up during the civil rights movement. Do you know what that is? Living history. Take advantage. And so that, it's not exciting that they lived through the civil rights, but it is, right? Because they can give you like a true account. And also the fact that they're still living in 2025 and seeing all the BS that's happening. And you probably have like a queer cousin who taught themselves how to like code or be confident in their own skin. Well, that was a stretch, code to being confident in their own skin. I don't know why I did that. But anyway, or you have someone who knows how to run a business. That could be your entrepreneurship lesson. And this isn't like, oh, I'm just supplementing. No, it's real education. Like, you can't sell exposing your kids and to all this like access of knowledge. That's education. It is not supplemental. And community knowledge is not like a last resort. I think it's a radical act of reclaiming the ways we always taught, always learned, and always survived. And I think that matters especially for BIPOC and marginalized communities because schools, especially in the US, were never built for Black, Brown, Indigenous, or disabled, people who were just brilliant. It was made to ignore them. They were designed to standardize and to discipline and to erase, but not to liberate. So when we homeschool, we're not just opting out of the system. We are actively building something better. We are restoring intergenerational learning. We are preserving cultural wisdom, prioritizing mental health and identity and its safety, choosing curiosity over compliance. And we're teaching our kids how to think, not what to think. And again, that's when like the real revolution happens. And it's not just the phonics and the fractions. And let's talk about what that looks like in real life. So what community knowledge has looked like in my homeschool? Let's see. So again, I've talked about this where my co-founder brought her mom, who was from, Georgia. We had another elder who was from, I guess South Texas, from a small town. Then we had one from Detroit. And they were all Black people who were sharing their Black experiences through the civil rights movement. And to hear, Detroit at that time was like 90-something% Black. Atlanta is like the Black Mecca. And then we had the elder that was from, Southwest Texas, from a small town. So hearing their experiences from where it was to where it's now was, life-changing. And they even had like their voter card and like their copy of the Green Book. It was just a powerful experience. And that was social studies. It was, a spiritual connection with an elder. It was so many things. And like the Green Book, it was like a map like that. It was so many layers to it. We have a parent who teaches at a university and like shares, her perspective of like what, Black history looks like at a college level and how they're breaking it down. That's cool. I know my daughter has been exposed to so many local Black artists because my husband's very much immersed into the art community. And, she learned about installations for art festivals. She's done, pop-ups at some of the events that my husband hosts, and that teaches her entrepreneurship. That's practicing math. That's practicing public speaking because people want to know about her product. So she's got to sell it. And also like storytelling. So it's different when you're like, these are my bookmarks. But if you sell it with some pizzazz and a story, she's learning sales skills. And I also don't want to forget, like, when my son was learning, like, fractions. Like, we did it in such a simple way with my neighbors, and they were making cornbread. And so, he was learning what, like, half a cup looked like, and we were showing him where the mark is. Does he understand the concept of, like, a fraction? No, but he was learning where it looked like, what it looked like in a measuring cup. And that's math. That's math in his hands. It feels like math. And that's not something you can necessarily put in a textbook. The point of all this is that the school system will try to make you believe that if it's not in a textbook or attached to a state standard, that is not real education. But let me remind you, braiding hair is a skill. It's a science. Organizing a protest is civics. Decolonizing your history is truth-telling, and naming your boundaries is social-emotional learning. And loving your culture out loud is revolutionary. Homeschooling isn't just about what happens at the table with workbooks and worksheets and lectures. It's what happens when your kid sees themselves as a whole person with power, with voice, with roots, with curiosity. And I think that's the whole assignment of homeschooling. So if you're holding back from homeschooling because you don't want to teach fractions or, conjugate French verbs, let that fear go. Because you don't have to know everything. I don't know everything. The homeschool mom who you think has it all together does not know everything. You just have to believe your kid is worth learning with. Outsource if necessary. I believe I shared the OutSchool Facebook group a while back. So on Facebook, there is OutSchool discount classes, and it's really teachers on there who are a couple of things. So if they're new to OutSchool, they're looking for students so that they can get reviews. So they may offer their class for free or half price or open to negotiating the price. Or you have teachers on there who, have a class open for 10 students and they only have a handful registered. So they're like, oh, I'll give you half price or free to just join my class so they can get more reviews. And another one is just so that they can practice whatever class and get honest feedback from the student. There are a couple of those OutSchool discount Facebook groups, but I definitely think it's worth it, especially like if there's a subject or an interest your kid might have, but you're unsure about the teacher. And if you like their class and it was half off, that was nice. So you feel more comfortable investing with that teacher. Also, don't forget to collaborate with your kid, to follow their curiosity, to trust community, and to stop letting the myth of having to be the expert stop you from becoming the most important facilitator your kid will ever know, because you're the one who believes in them with your whole heart, and you say that with your chest. My call to action. Did this episode spark a light in you? If it did, good. I really want you to, share this podcast on your social media, in your stories. Please tag me on my Instagram at Secular Homeschool Revolution. Slide in my DMs. It's going down in the DMs. Oh man, I love that song. And it's like 12 years old. I guess I need to stop rambling. And also, please, remind yourself or remind people in your circle that you don't have to do it all and you're not supposed to. And hold that close to your heart, especially on those hard days when things feel complicated or you feel less than. Say, it's okay. I don't have to do it all. I also would like if you would leave a review. It helps more progressive homeschoolers find us in the chaos of the algorithms and the algorithmically centered, generated other, like, shout out to I don't know where I was going with that, but shout out to the other podcasters. But there's a lack of melanin on the Apple Podcasts and Spotify podcast of homeschooling podcasts. So shout out mine and like it and share it and send a review. And now I want you to go and build your village and keep revolutionizing your home education, because you, in fact, are revolutionary. See you next week.